all go? It's gone. Where'd it go, Amber? Oh, yeah, I shaved it. Fitness goals met.
Yay.
So, big bushy thing that was on my face is gone. It's gone. It's great because I'm thinner and I feel thinner now that I've gotten rid of this. It's like I look less fat. I look less
You dropped
Santa
like
Claus-y.
10 pounds of hair.
And then I dropped 10 pounds of me. We're live with the Married Lab this week. How you doing, Amber?
I'm good.
It's been like 2 weeks since the channel's seen you, so you got to do better than good.
I'm really good.
Ladies and gentlemen, Amber Collins. The one and only. The finest at entries. Previous season's been upon us. How you liking those so far?
I'm liking this set. I'm liking the characters that are coming. I really want a Captain America.
And the cons?
I haven't really looked at the cons, to be honest. Well, I know that they've come out. Mm-hmm. They exist. There seems to be a lot of that was like my big reaction to it. I was like, there's a lot going on here.
There are so many convention exclusives this year. And this is just in like the winnable category. We're not going over those. That's mine and the Meta Labs problem. But this Monday, between 2 sets of previews, plus the con exclusive previews, plus the in-depth comprehensive rules stuff.
It'll be a long Monday night.
Monday's going to be a long one, guys. And I'm going to try to make it as interesting as I possibly can. All right. But we do kind of want to go over some, like the short order comprehensive rule update today. Before we start talking about our hypothesizing for the upcoming fictional until proven otherwise Canadian nationals. This is the thing, is like, we're not going to be able to make U.S. nationals. We know that. Our current vacation plans for HeroClix Evolving, are going to be Canadian nationals whenever we find out when that is. It's spoiler alert to everybody who asked. I don't know. And what's the other thing? Worlds. Yes, Worlds. Assuming we find out where that is. Because
PAX is like the second week of December.
Yeah.
And like the tickets go on sale like next week.
I thought they went on sale like yesterday.
The tickets went on sale yesterday.
No, sorry, May 9th. It was May 9th that they go on sale. So
next week.
Yeah. We should know soon. Hey, WizKids. Hi.
But like, I think from the last time they talked about Worlds, they're like, it's gonna be somewhere between like September and December.
That's such a vague.
That's 4 months.
It's a 4-month window, and we don't know. And the thing is like PAX Unplugged could sell out, and if it sells out, and some of us like, I can't guarantee that I can make that. And then if they change Worlds, so ultimately the begging is, hey, WizKids, please.
Like, let us know where you're putting this.
What else has happened?
We get that it's the end of the year, but still, people need to know.
WWE clicks leaked, or some stuff about it leaked. And if those figures seem accurate based on previews we've already seen before. Yeah. And if they are accurate, I got so much to say about it that is nothing negative. And when I got to one figure, and I had my one reaction for the entire set. Woo!
We showed our kids, and like the boys were like, "Hey, that's Andre the Giant," and our daughter was like, "That's legit. It's a legit boss right there."
Big Sasha Banks fan she is. I don't want to tell her that Sasha's not happy with the company right now, though. Anyway, that's wrestling talk. Back to HeroClix. So let's go over this comprehensive rule stuff, because there's a lot, and some of these changes are just astronomically change the way we kind of look at the game.
Yeah.
So we're going to go to this. Boom. All right, here we are. So this is the actual article from WizKid's own website. I'm going to speed read through some of this, but I'm going to go slower for the things that are important. So bear with me as we go. HeroClix fans, WizKids is proud to announce an update to the general tournament rules and comprehensive rules for all HeroClix organized play, including all local store events and premier events as of May 11, 2019. For additional information about the HeroClix comprehensive rulebook and corresponding change log, click here. Oops. So that worked. Okay, cool. Good link. Good link. A little hidden link there. The majority of existing rules are identical or slightly updated to consolidate sections. However, there are some rules adjustments and new sections added to improve the tournament experience. It will be important to review these if you plan to compete in U.S. HeroClix national events at Origins Game Fair, as they will be in effect, because these are in effect May 11th. For additional information on WizKids US national events such as schedule, pre-registration, etc., click here. So without further ado, let's take the major differences found in the general tournament rules. So, I'm going to slow down for this one. Note-taking, which was originally no. Now, players are allowed to use non-electronic devices. No! This is one of those, like, it's just a sketch pad, but it's technically electronic, so technically no. Players are allowed to use non-electronic devices such as pen and paper or a custom-designed tool to record and keep track of the game state. This typically applies to effects that allows selection of powers and abilities, and also to keep track of the current score. Players must be able to record this information in a timely manner, otherwise they risk a penalty for delaying the game. This new rule allows players to be more proactive about the current game state, and importantly, what the score of the game is. There are many powers and abilities in the game that allow standard powers to be selected by a turn-by-turn basis, and this can be difficult to remember over the course of a match. Now, a couple problems I have with this. This typically applies. That's not specific. There's non-specific sets of information that, like, they're non-specific about what we're allowed to record. As far as I'm concerned, there's a lot about the game state that I can record in a very short period of time when it comes to what's going on in the game. I'm a Magic. I come from a background of Magic the Gathering. If I look at your hand in a Magic the Gathering organized play tournament, I'm allowed to take notes about what was in your hand, and that's kind of information that I can hold on to and make effective use of, right? An example of what I can foresee being a thing I could take note-taking based on what we see here, which is keep track of the game state. I hit Vulture for 3, right? V3, so I'm now keeping track of how much damage I've done to Vulture. Not a bad thing. I'm just saying this is the kind of information that I can very easily keep track of while my opponent is clicking the dial, and I'm also subsequently planning. Like, this is easily handled with shorthand. And you know, what I like is powers and abilities are able to be written down. So if my opponent is now, like, I almost feel like this is a requirement, is that they got to write it down, or, you know, so as not to leave any ambiguity. And of course, the points are going to come in more effect later. But how many times have you screwed up on points, you know, and then, you know, not realized until much later? It's like, oh, I'm winning. What am I doing with my life?
I actively don't pay attention to how many points I've scored, so I'm really bad at that.
So you really need to start doing that.
Yeah.
So overall, I'm cool with this because I love writing this kind of stuff down and have more information I can keep track of on pen to paper. That means I have less mental space I need to take, and I get less flustered, and I'm able to keep track of what's going on here, and so on and so forth, right? But the other thing, too, is, like, as far as I'm concerned, as long as I'm not stalling the game state, as long as I'm writing about things on the game state, I don't foresee any sort of issues arising. It could arise where I have an opponent who's particularly curious about things, but, you know, if I'm doing it on his turn or whatever, I don't know. There's so many issues and things about this that I need answers to questions about, that I'm the wrong person to have this sort of thing in his wheelhouse, to say the least. I don't know, Amber, what are your thoughts?
I think it's definitely a good thing. I think that being able to track the score is probably the most important thing here.
Yep.
Obviously being able to track powers and abilities. I don't really know how to go the best way. Like, it's going to be one of those things I'll have to do in practice. To go about the best way of tracking, like, pick-up powers. Unless you have, like, a custom kind of, like, pack map, basically, to do it, that's the easiest way to do it. But I find there's so many times where I'll be playing a game and my opponent will be like, okay, I'm going to pick this power. And then, like, 5 seconds later, it's like, oh, no, I have to pick this power. And then they'll be like, oh, wait, which power did I pick? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not paying attention to what you're, like, you should know what powers you're picking. And I feel like this is sort of thing that's gonna help in those situations where you can actually be like, okay, I'm like writing down, I'm writing perplex. Like this is, and then even as an opponent, you can be like, oh no, you picked this. Like this is what you did last turn. This is the power that you picked. Because that's not always something that's active in your mind, especially when you do successive turns and you don't always pick the same power. Be like, oh, there was one turn, like I've been recently playing Star Fox a lot, where it'll be like, okay, this is the one turn where I'm perplexing up my attack by 2 and not my defense. So
that's another thing I didn't count is we're mass perplexing again.
Yeah,
we need this covered. So having this written down is going to go a long way.
Yep.
Also, think about all those times where you turn to your opponent's like, so I'm going to just keep picking these 2 powers. And you get a stubborn opponent's like, I'd rather you did it every turn. So you go, free action, and you point at your paper now. I think it's pretty good. Yeah. So I'm going to go free action, here's the powers. Hey, guess what? They're the same ones as last time.
Yeah.
You get a little... it actually adds a level of shorthand to it that I think is pretty awesome. Okay, so all of that covered. I think note-taking is cool. Do yourself a favor, don't be a slow dirtbag about it. And honestly, like, here's the best mode etiquette as I can see it. If you score something, your opponent is turning the dial. Generally, you know when you're about to score something. You immediately write that number down, and you don't have to use your own turn time in order to, or you can use like dice roll damage dealing time, like errant time, in order to write things down. Pick up a shorthand, because to be brutally honest, your opponent doesn't have to clearly recognize what you're writing down. They have to be keeping track of the game state in their own shorthand.
Yeah.
So while you can look at your opponent's piece of paper, you're also of the responsibility to write this stuff down. So pick up a shorthand and understand your own shorthand so you know what's going on. And if it's something your opponent has to know, make sure it's a clear enough shorthand. And I think we honestly should, as a community, start to come up with shorthand for powers if we're going to be using note-taking to choose pick a power things. You know, PC, probability control. OW, outwit. We can come up with these things. EE, energy explosion. PB, psychic blast. We kind of understand that far, but I think
there's some crossovers, like super strength and super senses would be the same. But I mean,
SST.
Yeah.
Versus SSP. Or something like that. SP, whatever. You know what? I think I'll do an Into the Mind of Madness and be like, here's my shorthand. If you like it, use it. And we'll do that, I think. I think that's going to be the best option. Mm-hmm. All right. The next stuff, some of it's a little controversial, others not so much. So the first one is custom modified game element sculpts. Players may not use custom or modified sculpts from for their game elements. All game element sculpts must be the original sculpts, and they must be the correct sculpt for their combat dial. Players may use custom action tokens and custom items for generated game elements, markers, bystanders, etc. The tournament staff may, at their discretion, forbid custom action tokens or items that are potentially offensive or excessively confusing. There's 3 things to come over, and they all kind of follow the same thing. Custom painted game element sculpts. We're going to cover the first 2, then we're going to cover the third one in a little bit more detail, I think. But we're going to go through this entire section. So custom painted game element sculpts. Players may custom paint their game element sculpts to use them in tournaments without needing an opponent's approval. This includes the painting of pre-painted sculpts and unpainted sculpts. Tournament staff may, at their discretion, forbid custom paints that are potentially offensive or excessively confusing. So if you're doing something, in this case, like when they say excessively confusing, we're talking about, I've got the X-Men black and yellow version of Beast, and I paint it blue and yellow, which is the uncommon version. Your judge can turn around and go, that's an attempt to confuse your opponent. And you have to be seriously clear about a lot of things. So, but anyway, and then game element cards. This one's hurtful, and people are angry about this one, but we have to suffer. Players are required to bring and use the original cards for all of their game elements. Proxy cards will not be allowed. If a card becomes damaged beyond use or is missing when playing in a sealed event at the discretion of the tournament staff, a replacement card may be used if available, or the player may use a printed version of the card provided by the tournament staff. All right, so just to kind of culminate what they said, these 3 rules all address the physical game elements a player uses during a HeroClix match. To state them simply, custom sculpts are not allowed at HeroClix events. Custom paint jobs are generally allowed, and printed out cards are not allowed. No custom sculpts has always been a rule. They're just making it explicit. There always was a standing rule. It's like, I think some guy brought Hawkeye's quiver as a bat, the Batman bat belt, but he also brought his bat belt and said, "Is this cool?" And the judges were cool with it, but he also had it for the player available.
Yeah, there used to be like a kind of like standing rule where like it was actually part of HeroClix tournament rules where you could bring customs as long as you had a copy of the original, and then you had to clear it with your opponent.
Yeah.
And I guess like that essentially takes time. That can be confusing. People don't always want, because as we kind of touched on with the painting, using something that is custom can be confusing because more often than not we use these sculpts as visual aids as to, okay, what is that one? And we do see that differential in sets where we have multiple of the same characters, where it's like, okay, the uncommon looks like this, the rare looks like this, and we know that. But when you have the dial, and because you're not always, like when you're looking down the table at your map, you're not always seeing the top of the dial or stuff like that. You're using that sculpt as a visual aid as to, oh, I know what that character is.
Yeah. All right, so we move next to custom paint jobs. There's a line of unpainted HeroClix figures releasing later this year.
Ooh.
Oh! And there's a chance that some people who painted their favorite superheroes are first-time HeroClix players. We're hoping getting to play with their custom-painted figures helps welcome them into the game we love. It's important to note that any custom-painted figure must not cause any confusion in a tournament environment. Such as painting all of your characters on your force a single shade of black with no other details, as if they were chess pieces, or purposefully painting them a scheme that would cause confusion with other pieces on the team, or with the identification of the figure, as I was saying with the X-Men example. Basically, don't paint them for an in-game advantage. I think this all kind of comes, like, the figures generally are pretty standard. But don't paint your Mary Marvel to look like, what's the other figure that she was modeled in? That's a bad example. Don't paint your Dapper Dan uncommon to look like a Dapper Dan rare, or vice versa. Right? I don't think we need to. All right, here we go. This one sucks. Printed out or proxy cards are not allowed. This has been a rule, and we're making this has also been a rule, and we're making it explicit. However, the tournament staff may issue a replacement in the form of a printout or just for the event, or borrowing a card. An example would include playing in a sealed event and receiving a card that did not come with the corresponding figure, or someone losing a character card during the tournament but had it at the start of the tournament. Okay, so this one sucks on a number of reasons. Let's exit the tournament environment. We are no longer in a tournament. We are at our local game store. We just bought a pack of HeroClix. Amber, I just pulled a chase. Check it out. It's Dawnbringer. How awesome is that?
That's amazing.
Want to know what it does?
Yeah.
Can't tell you. Didn't get the card.
Fuck.
And effectively, the figure is rendered useless. And that hurts. And I don't know how to put it plainly enough. This has happened in the past, and it doesn't happen a lot, but it happens enough to be concerned about that one day you get the one that didn't come with the card, and you're like, what do I do now? And I don't know what to say about this. This does push the community towards singles and making sure you get all the pieces when you get them. That's one thing it does. So, like, the risk of a pack, and okay, I don't want to say packs are risky enough, because while it has happened 12.5 times to me, I don't think it's been high enough rarity in most cases. But subsequently, we all kind of have to accept the fact that certain things have happened behind the scenes, and WizKids has forced this. But then WizKids has also rendered cardless figures useless. I hope that they offer a mail-a-card system or something to that effect, where you turn around, you show them your pack, you show them the cards that came in the pack, you send them an email, it's like, hey, I don't have the card for this figure, and they send it to you. I mean, there's no tactical or financial advantage to that. And I think WizKids should do that. You look like you wanted to stop me in the middle of that.
No, just adding a kind of silver lining onto what you're talking about here is that Justin Zirin did reach out when all of these got posted, and he's saying that WizKids is actually working on a system to do this.
All right, perfect.
It's in beta. They're trying to work all the bugs out, and hoping to have it go live, where they will have some sort of way of asking for proof of purchase and then sending you your missing card.
Yeah. All right, cool. So I'm over it. Because if they're beta testing a system that's going to replace cards, again, no tactical or financial advantage to missing the card. They're not going to give you ID cards. Don't fool yourself. You are kidding yourself. There's no proof that you didn't get the ID card you deserved in your pack. Come on now. But, you know, like, what tactical advantage do I have to having 2 Dawnbringer cards?
Yeah.
Why do I keep going to Dawnbreaker? I think it's actually Dawn. I've said it Dawnbringer, Dawnbreaker, Dawnbringer, Dawnbreaker.
No.
On Donner, on Blitzen. Also worth noting, a broken arm on a figure is not a custom modification.
No.
So, don't be a dick. Sorry, I'm going full mode on some of these. Okay, we have a new victory condition, ladies and gentlemen. When only one, so the current victory condition, or the victory conditions under the new rules. When only one player is undefeated before the time is reached. You read the next one.
The time limit is reached. If the time limit is reached, the player that scored the most victory points in that game wins.
During a 2-player game, if a player's victory point total is equal or higher than the build total value plus 100 after most recent effects resolve, that player is the victor. For example, if the build is 300 points, the game would end as a player scores 400 or more points. I think that's cool. There's a mercy rule. Most players probably notice a third new victory condition is not only tournaments with 2 players, since, as stated earlier in the article, no taking is allowed. Players can track this easily, though for most games they won't need to do so. It's intended to stop the negative play experience that people sometimes encounter when teams that can generate or reuse characters and would require your opponent to knock out double or even triple that tournament's build total in order to win. We're hoping this creates a more interesting balance of risk and reward for game elements that let you revive knocked out figures or bring in higher point cost figures for a fraction of their actual cost, etc., while keeping the HeroClix experience rooted in combat and tactics. Okay, so the first initial thought is, how does this affect Unimind? It doesn't.
No, it really doesn't.
It doesn't really. Like, Unimind is useless. Well, no, if I kill 3 of your guys on Unimind anyway, I don't think you come back from that. And sometimes 3 of them's not enough points, too. So...
Yeah. Well, it's not a guarantee. It's like, there's a very good chance that if your Unimind has been popped and a bunch of your Eternals are starting to die, there's a good chance that you're not winning that game.
Right? So, then we move on to the ID card situations. Like, ID cards are a risk. They've always been a risk!
Yeah.
I almost won a game killing out of 1 figure of my opponent's force, and the rest was all their ID cards. So, honestly, like, it's the same risk. It just ends the game sooner. You know what I mean? If you hit a 400... And if you hit, like, honestly, you got to look at the game state in which you hit 400 points before the game is over. And how much time has passed and what has happened in that game. Your opponent was dead. There's one figure that takes a big hit from this, but she's about to retire. Mistress Death. I think it's the biggest hit on a figure.
Right.
Because she dies a lot.
She dies and comes back. And that was one thing where before they're like, okay, yeah, they're racking up points, but like she's coming back and she's still destroying your team. Yeah.
Like one example would be if you played the Ninja Turtles from the Fast Forces. This came to mind at one point. So you're playing the Ninja Turtles with the Fast Forces. Every time you kill them, you score... Or every time you kill them and lose a quarter, you score 25 points. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now it's a 300-point game. Let's say I scored nothing but all of your turtles and the coin tokens. I'm still only at 300 points if I play like 4 of them, right? So, and honestly, if you've done that much damage to those turtles, you deserve the win. Yeah. So, honestly, I think this is a cool effect, and overall, it's very positive for the game. It kind of like a mercy rule. We had this when I was a wrestler in high school. If you were winning by 10 points, the match was ended. And it's along that lines. Though there isn't a point gap included in this, it is a straight up like you win by being 100 points over the point limit. So it's not
like you've scored so many points. Yeah. We don't need to keep going here.
It could be 400 to 250 though, or 400 to 300. It's 400 cuts it off. You're done. So we're cool. I think I'm cool. I'm cool with it. Anything you want to add or?
No, I enjoy it. Like, I know I spoke with you earlier, and I just feel like with the fact that we're capping at this, like, it's still, honestly, it bothers me. It will always bother me that Unimind doesn't get scored when he gets killed. It will always bother me. And it is something that I pushed for when he first showed up on the watch list. It was something that I've said since he first came out. There should never be a figure that is not scored when you kill it. Like, I don't mind would-be KO'd effects, but this is the most, I want to say, abusive version of that effect. Where, like, other characters that we have seen use this have never used it to the strict advantage that Unimind does.
Have you met Daredevil?
Yeah, but what is it? He's like, what, 30 points?
60.
Okay, 60 points. So you're denying somebody 60 points and you have to kill him X amount of times. Like,
I get the feel bad. It's all good. All right, so this one's huge. But honestly, it's huge and it isn't. And it's the scoring and point cap. Win, loss, and victory points are recorded on a player's team build sheet. A player's maximum recorded point total can be no more than the build total, typically 300 points. Note that a player can score more than the build total during a game, and that score will be used, if needed, to determine the winner. But the maximum total that can be recorded is the build total value. Okay. I'm just going to quickly. A player may have the opportunity to score more points and achieve third win condition listed above, but when it is all said and done, when recording the results of a match, the build total, usually 300 points, is the maximum that it can be recorded. It's unfair that some players have the opportunity to rack up enormous points on enormous number of tiebreaker points in a tournament by knocking out over 500 points of characters in a single 300-point game because of their opponent's particular kind of force. By updating this leads to another change, which we're going to talk about in a second. Okay, so I understand where this is coming from. Imagine you've gone 2-2. One of your games was super close, but one of your games you scored like 800 points on in a 300 point, and this has happened in a tournament, and you get top 8, and somebody's mad because they were 2-1 going into the fourth round, and now they're 2-2, but they toughed it out as hard as they could, and it was really like they wiped both of the games that they won, let's say, and scored a lot on their losses. Your 800 point is worth just as much as their 300 point. And it's what this does is this kind of equalizes and levels out a weird anomaly that existed specifically to HeroClix. And yes, it is possible now to win a 300 to 300 game. That's I think was possible beforehand. It was actually possible to win a game with 300 points when your opponent had like 600 points. So don't lose your mind about that. You can win with less points than your opponent. All you had to do was wipe them. Yep. That was a lot of the Lady Death effect. What's important about this is it gets us a step closer to. It's not exactly it. So when I say a step closer, we're talking like a micro step closer to strength of schedule. It's still not going to be it. And I think HeroClix's system is fine. But ultimately, just having teams that when you kill them score 800 points, like when you beat somebody that bad, that should not make you look better on the standard. That makes them look bad. Dude, you gave up 800 points in a 300-point game. What the heck? How did you do that? What did you do with your life? What did he do with his life? That guy, you don't get more points by them playing that bad. You know what I mean? I'm not saying necessarily that player played it terribly. Maybe they were playing a mistress death, and you played a tight game. They scored 209 or 280 points, and you had just your Groot left, and you scored hundreds of points in late death. Like that could very well have been the situation as well. It's not about the specific situation. It's about the fact that when somebody gives up that many points, it doesn't reflect that well necessarily, or that in that way on the person who won. Necessarily, I think there's more reflection on how it was lost and what was given up in that case, and I think that's a major case, or that they're looking at in this case, in this situation. And then the next thing that they mentioned also adds into it. So I'm going to say there's a ... at the end of my statement. Amber,
there are two things that I want to say to this. The first is, while we were reading this, it made me laugh that they're like, it's unfair that some players have this. It's like, it's unfair because this is how you designed the game. Like, I appreciate that you're now.
That's their way. Like, because they wrote the article. Okay, we get it. It's not fair. Sorry.
It was one of those things that made me laugh. The other note that I want to put on this is that. Sorry, I have like two parts to this. The first one is...
You're on your third part now.
I don't know. Like, not everyone is going to have experience having recorded a tournament in the win system. It's not always an easy system to use. And it doesn't like these high point games. It doesn't like when you do things out of the ordinary. It still has a fair amount of glitches and whatnots in it.
Whatnots.
And
lousy whatnots and gremlins.
And when you have stuff like this where you're going like super high in points, like it kind of freaks out a little bit. So
I've never seen it freak up for points.
This is when it's a pairing thing. It freaks out more about drops than it does points.
There we go.
But it's I'm trying to figure out how to organize my thoughts here.
Get there.
I'm trying. You're not helping.
I don't know. I'd read your mind, but it's a garbled mess.
That's not what I meant. Yeah, it's a way for basically this helps the organizers more than it helps the players when it comes down to it. Is that making things very clear cut, and the most you can score is 300. Good, you won. Did you get a full point? Awesome, 300. Good, done, recorded. Let's go. It makes things faster. It makes things easier. A full wipe is whatever the build total was. Now, having said that, this was a discussion that came up when this was first posted, is that when it says build total, it means the tournament build total, which is why it typically says typically 300. This is
what game design pays attention to.
Yes. If we're not going back to the kill survivor points. We're not going back to only scoring what the person has on their force. If you manage to wipe out 800 points of stuff, you're going to score at 300. Even if that guy's team build was only 295, you're going to score that 300 because you had scored more than 300. So the most you can record is 300. You're not stuck to, even though you scored 800, but this guy's build total was under 300, you're not scoring the lower amount. You're going to score the high amount. They're just not giving you the 800 points anymore.
Yeah. Also, if it's an 800-point tournament, the most you can score is 800.
Yes.
All right. So we move on to buys. A buy is issued when there's an odd number of players in a Swiss event. A buy is considered a win. First round buys are assigned randomly. In subsequent rounds, a buy is given to the lowest ranked player who's not already received a buy. The player that receives the buy receives a win for that round at a score of half the build total points. When they say typically 150, again, HeroClix only knows 300 points exists. I mean, cool. Buys are worth something. And this is why, another reason why the 300 point cap exists is if you're still scoring 800 points in a game, what the hell good is a 150 point buy still? It might as well still be 0. Right? It's still not a great win. It's a win it's a win that's scored like a close game. Okay, I'm cool with that. But a win is a win is a win. And a 150 point win in a world where the most you can score for a win is 300 points. Here, see where we're going with this. So, cool. Perfect. They fixed the point cap and added this rule at perfect timing. Amber, anything you want to add?
Not to this, but I do remember my point as to why I was saying the win freaks out with points was that it was actually your note about it's possible to score points and not score the highest points and not win.
Oh yeah.
That's when the win system doesn't like it. Where it's it automatically gives the win to whoever has the highest points. So
yeah. So you actually have to manually say,
yes.
No. Believe it or not, that 600 points was a loss.
Yeah. So sorry, that's why I was saying that the win freaks out when there's too many points.
Again, but there's going to be a 300 to 300 point. It's going to automatically go to draw. You're still going to have to manually go.
Yeah.
No, that was a win for this guy.
Yes.
Okay. So that again, that covers exactly what I just said. So next we move on to ties. During the Swiss rounds of an event, if a game ends with both players scoring 0 points, both players receive a game loss. Otherwise, if players have a tied victory point total, the winner will be determined by a roll-off of 2d6, with the winner being the player that has the highest result, re-rolling ties. During the single elimination portion of an event, for any ties, including 0-point ties, the winner will be determined with a roll-off. A 0-point tie resulting in a roll-off was no fun. No, well, you know what? I've had fun games that were 0-0 ties, but I play bystanders. And not part of the spirit of HeroClix that we want to promote. When it came to determine what to replace it with, the Rocks rules had already been field tested by some of the best HeroClix players in the world across several years and formats. They liked it. This rule obviously encourages players to engage in combat rather than taking actions that fail to advance the game state. In any event, any game during a Swiss round that resulted in a 0-0 score is now a loss for both games. So the rest is talking about... I've always kind of liked this. This has never happened to me. Ever.
Happened to me once.
What, like the 0-0 tie?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, no, this has never happened to me. It's happened to me once. Correction. It's happened to me once. And it was my Team Worlds game, round 2. And we had 0-0, had to roll off, and I won. But that was still a fun game. It was a positioning game. So long and the short of it is both of us played safe, but not necessarily in a negative manner. Anyway, that's why I'm kind of 50-50 on this. We both played a hell of a game. We both accepted that it was a hell of a game. Mm-hmm. And we both looked at it and said, yeah, we both had no choice on this matter. Rolled off and we're okay with it. Unfortunately, in the new rules, that would be a loss for the both of us. Now, in that round, that ultimately changes nothing. But I think as a whole, this is cool. I'm cool with it. Mm-hmm. This really definitely dissuades the idea of strictly unkillable teams.
Yes, absolutely. For me, the only 0-0 point tie that I've ever had was the top 32 of Canadian nationals one year, and it was against Faust. So what was I gonna do?
That was a poisonous environment anyway.
Yeah, so it's that's not something, hopefully, that we're ever going to have to run into again. But the only reason it was I could not actually do anything because Faust shut down my game. Not only was it Faust, it was a Faust Doctor Strange combo with Tim Hunter. This is when I was playing my very first build of the Skull Ship. So I've got a 200 point figure. I am doing everything I can to protect my Harley so that he doesn't score that. And it went to a roll-off. And, I won the roll-off. But, that was something where I was trying really, really hard to beat him, but Faust stopped me, and then Doctor Strange stopped me, and then Faust stopped me, and like there was nothing I could do about that. So thankfully that's not something that we have in the current environment, but we still have unkillable, unscorable teams. Like there's still that point denial, and I feel like there's always going to be that in HeroClix, but at least this is a level of discouragement where it's like, okay, well, you can't completely rely on
not dying.
Like, even if you make sure your opponent doesn't score any points, you have to make sure that you're scoring points so that you don't end up with a loss too.
Yeah, the thing about this is that what it means is you can still make your hard to kill undying teams, but you got to score with them now. You got to put the effort into getting kills, and so that's to say, it doesn't completely turn off a strategy, but what it does is it forces a strategy to find a new way to play. And that, I don't think it's a problem for the modern era of hard to kill teams, because
No.
What do we have? We have the Daredevil, who's probably the easiest hard to kill guy they've ever made. Easiest to kill hard to kill guy. Lockjaw, difficult to kill. And I'm talking about, I'm already ignoring what phases out in July. So ignoring that Joker, okay? I'm ignoring him. He doesn't exist. Star Fox, Unimind, like anything with stop clicks, they're going to be tough to kill. This kind of, and they can all fight.
Yeah.
So, kind of what I'm getting at is, cool. a big fat John Oliver, cool. Yeah, so big changes. Invest in notepads, kids.
Yeah.
Invest heavily. Go to your local dollar store, grab a couple notebooks. I'm gonna be practicing soon. Like next time me and Amber do the married lap, we're going to actually take a chance to practice our own shorthand. Figure out how we're gonna do it. I'm gonna come up with how I'm going to figure out my shorthand and share it with you guys on Into the Mind of Madness this week, and kind of go from there. So Amber.
Yes.
Nationals.
Yes.
The mythical Nationals is coming up.
At some point.
Canada has had Nationals several years in a row. We trust
that we will have another one. When it will be.
Oh
no.
What's going on? Okay.
All right.
Nothing.
Sorry. There was a warning on
there was an interruption in the stream, so hopefully the stream is still going. Let us know if you can't see anything in the chat. Mythical, possibly happening in the Great White North to determine the next king or queen of the North, who's often from the South.
Yeah.
We need our Arya Stark here. Where are you sitting right now, Amber? What do you feel like we know the problem team?
Yes. I am torn between a lot of actually different things. I am torn between keeping with Starro because I know it. Mm-hmm. And I can play it. And now that I've played it at States and played against some mirror matches or essential mirror matches, I can kind of adapt other people's strategies as to, like, I got to see how other people played the team, and like there's certain things I can pick up from that and go from that, or trying out a different kind of tentpole team, because as much as I don't want to admit it, I do have to admit that I do better with big tentpole guys.
She likes big butts. Cannot lie.
So I was thinking of maybe trying out a Black Panther with the Infinity Gauntlet build. Or like
I like when she picks things that I don't have intentions of using.
My like low end is that like concession of just being like, well, why don't I just play Vulture? I don't want to get there. I don't want to get there. I would rather just go in with something else. But my big thing, and I'm going to assume that there's a big assumption here, though. I'm going to assume that Canadian Nationals happens sometime after the first week of July.
Oh, it's definitely happening after the first week of July. If we haven't had it announced yet, it's too late.
So I really, really want to play with the new Captain America. My biggest downside of it is that he is a chase. So it's gonna be hard to acquire. Hopefully we pull him, and I don't have to have Jason go on a hunt.
It didn't happen. I didn't get one. Hold on, let me try again.
Stop that. Oh my god.
Oh, what? I'm throwing my wallet at the internet. That's what I usually have to do for these things.
But yeah, that's my, like, as soon as I saw him, I was like, I actually want to play this. Obviously the big attraction there for me is that he only ever takes one hit at a time. I don't like being one-shotted. I don't imagine there's many people that actually enjoy being one-shotted, but I really,
There's
really
one guy's
don't like it.
I don't mind my figures getting hit one shot at a time. Hey, some of us are just used to it because we play a bunch of bystanders.
Yeah, well, whose fault is that?
Vultures.
But yes, I actually do want to build a team around him. So, those are my thoughts right now, is perfecting Starro, trying out a new one-man army, or hoping that I can secure a Captain America to make a team around.
Your team right now is Starro, Star Fox, Lockjaw, and something else?
Groot.
Cool.
With Meow Meow.
Cool. Mew. I gotta talk you out of Starro somehow.
No, that's fine. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I have gotten to that point. I'm okay with that. I'm open to try other things. Stop it.
Phrasing. There's that new character, Carmilla or something like that, from Black Panther and the Illuminati. We'll talk about her.
Okay.
We'll talk about her. She's a consideration for sure.
Okay.
I'm a broken man right now. I'm a very broken man. And I've talked about this on Into the Mind of Madness. A strategy I play. Oh yeah, I'm okay if I have a 70-30 matchup against certain teams. That 30%, I can push it. I can push it hard and find those edge cases where I can pull off a win. I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with was a 95-5 or a 99-1 matchup. And the Vulture is a 99-1 matchup. I lose that match.
Yeah.
I lose it. And that's very problematic for my team. But very recently, myself and Mr. Tom Kerr, much to the damage of my throat, went to go watch wrestling. And prior to watching wrestling, we had beers. Now, also, we saw me play with Amber on the Married Lab. I am growing attached to a dude. A very, very, very nice little dude. Who may or may not in some way have a future related to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Do you smell what I'm cooking? So ideas have been thrown around. Me and Tom bounced them off each other over beers. We are kind of happy with what we've come up with. I have to send it to my muses to see what they think. I'll also mention that Tom helped me with it, so they'll probably add a level of trust. It's like, Tom helped? Ooh.
That Tom Kerr, man.
That Tom Kerr. He's got a lovely voice, especially when he's chanting, "You sick bucket wrestling tournaments, wrestling events."
Oh my god! I almost wish I was there for that.
It was so delightful hearing Tom get involved in my chanting.
Like, hearing Tom swear on any occasion is fantastic.
Yeah, because most of the I've been swearing a lot today, and I apologize. But it wasn't in the first 30 seconds of the video, so it's not going to get knocked off. Screw you, algorithms! I'll fight you. Anyway, so we're going to see how the idea goes, and then if we're going to put it through the Muse filter. If the Muses like it, I'll probably play it on their next game when we are coming up with our note-taking skills, etc., etc.
Okay.
See how it goes. I'm excited for it. It's really cool. I like that. Okay, Devon Tech is cool. Devon Tech is an idea we came up with a while back, and he just happened to play it because he's young and gives 0 Fs.
Devin is also a bit of a savant when it comes to
A bit of a
HeroClix.
savant? He's a full-blown prodigy, Amber.
I cannot, like, having conversations with him sometimes is like, I could not even, trying to net deck Devin.
God, get there, Amber. Also note, the gas canister doesn't exist in our world. Because we're sure Canadian Nationals is post-rotation.
Yeah.
So Joker's gas canister doesn't exist. Ignore it. Yeah, so. A lot of thinking. Like, I think the hardest part is I have had to adapt the hardest. Because in the past 3 years, WizKids has provided me with a number of characters that play to something I like to do. When I play Magic, I like to play token decks. When I played Warhammer, I loved playing Orcs, and I loved playing Tyranids. Big, massive swarms, and they don't necessarily have to start on the board. Just give me the mounds of dudes. Oh, the binder is full of guys.
That's an expression I haven't heard in forever.
Anyway, while I'm doing this, if you are watching live and you are a $5 plus patron, the link is in the is on the patron wall. If you want to join in, the call line is open, as we say. But yeah, aside from that, I have had to readapt everything I know about the game of HeroClix, which is rough, man. That's hard, you know? And it's not like I don't know what I'm doing. It's just I've gotten so comfortable playing in a certain way that I have to step away from it and have to remember I do know how to play this game. I'm capable of making a reasonable run of it at this game. I can go above 50% sometimes. I can make top 32 and then bomb out to like just super hyper aggression. These are all things that I'm capable of. Yeah. So readapting has been just a thing I've had to accept. And even then, when we came up with this team, it was still big. It just didn't make dudes like it used to. Anything else you want to cover before we start wrapping up, Amber?
There is a Hulk with a squid on his head.
You are right. He deserves our undivided attention. And Amber, I remember I showed this to Amber, and she looked at me and said, "Why is there a squid on his head?" And I had to show her the page of the comic. It is delightful. The Thing and the Hulk gets stuck on an alien planet, and the Thing just puts on a cloak, and everybody mistakes him for an alien, including a squid they're talking to. So then the Hulk's like, you know what? Boof! Knocks out the squid, puts it on his head. Now I'm in a disguise too.
That's so good. Like, I honestly didn't even look at what the figure did. Like, I'm reading him right now as he's on this screen. My biggest thing was it was just like, it's Hulk with a squid on his head. I must own this because it's Hulk with a squid on his head.
No one will notice Hulk now. Is the power that gives him shape change, but only succeeds on a 6. When Hulk uses it and succeeds, Hulk and friendly characters adjacent to him can't be attacked this turn.
Like, he's actually a pretty decent
When
Hulk.
that works, you give up on life. You're just like, seriously? Seriously. There's more to the character.
For everyone.
Beat Banger McCrusher for 2 wishes. When an opposing character is KO'd during your turn. When an opposing character of 25 points or more is KO'd during your turn, after resolutions, place Hulk anywhere on the map and heal him 4 clicks.
That's so awesome. What the heck? Now, granted that only shows up on his last click.
Shucks. But it puts him on click 3, Amber.
Yes, it does.
With charge, 11 attack, 18 defense, with the positive cerebral ions. Invulnerability. If an attacking character's printed damage is 3, Hulk can use Impervious instead. If it is 4 or more, he can use Invincible instead. I love this Hulk.
Meaning of life explained via Hulk. Sometimes reading the flavor text is all that you need, man.
And that meaning of... I'm reading these powers all out of order, but anyway. Meaning of life explained via Hulk, which is on his last 3 clicks. Poison. At the end of your turn, if Hulk didn't move or make an attack this turn, give all other characters within 2 squares an action token, includes friendly characters.
I love it.
Everybody sits down and has to listen to the Hulk as he explains the meaning of life. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down.
It's going to hurt.
You want a fresh one?
Oh, God, so good.
It's weird. It's actually more effective to attack him with low damage characters with Psychic Blast.
Yeah.
I don't care. He's cool. Anyway, was that all you wanted to cover before we left? All right.
Everybody needed to experience Hulk with a squid on his head.
Okay. So then before we do that, we do have some questions. Okay. So Lucas Tom Van Hollen asks, do we know when Canadian Nats is? Adam Cole, when and where? I hope Windsor, Ontario. Nice place in the middle of your giant country, south of the U.S. Okay. So first, to address Tom Van Hollen, no, we don't know when U.S. Nationals is. And to address Adam Cole, we try to avoid holding our nationals in piles of dirt. Take that, Windsor.
Realistically, though, there seems to be some sort of relationship between WizKids and Cartamagica, who has been the ones to hold Canadian Nationals for the last 5 years. It is reasonable to expect them to hold it yet again, and they are based out of Ottawa, so we likely won't see it anywhere.
Somewhere between Ottawa and Montreal.
Yeah. It's typically, we had 1 year Toronto, and it did not go well.
Nope. All right. LeChad wants us to secretly build a Billy Baston team and compare them and to see who has the better hand. And he wants us to make it competitive.
We don't even need to do that. Have you seen me build teams? Jason wins.
Also, we need more Billy Bastons. Michael Fitter, can you prognosticate that every meta competitive team? I should have read this and corrected it myself. Can you prognosticate that every meta competitive team will have an Infinity Glove on it or a Space Gem once Black Panther and the Illuminati comes out? I don't think so. I still think those are all going to be symptomatic of the teams that can make effective use of them. I don't think all teams will be using them. There are a number of teams that will use them, and the Cosmic Cube is probably going to be used on some dudes, though not likely. The Infinity Gauntlet, some cases, I honestly don't think the Infinity Gauntlet we've seen is actually going to be used on that Captain America.
No.
Because he's 6 clicks, and you threaten yourself with damage when you use it. So.
And he can't heal.
Yeah.
But to those paying attention to his card, it says that he starts the game with any Infinity Gauntlet from the set, which means the one multiples. We saw is not the only one in the set.
I'm thinking there's going to be a white one from that same run of the Illuminati New Avengers.
Have you seen any other chases, or just the Captain America?
Just Captain America so far.
Okay, so
yeah, I think Captain America's the only chase because what's her name was shoot. Give me a second. Because clicked off, I believe, got another set of dudes. Trying to find it. That's the Lucky Dice one. That's the wrestling one. That's the cons. That's the 2 clicks one. What? Come on, guys. Sorry, I'm Googling. This is the most interesting content you could possibly get is me Googling, I'm sure. Clickstuff. They had something. I just want to make sure. I'm checking if, what's her name? Carmella or whatever it is. Kobik. Okay, so there is one other chase, and that's Kobik. And Kobik starts with the Cosmic Cube.
Okay. Because I had originally thought that with him saying any... See, and then hers says with any one Cosmic Cube.
Mm-hmm.
So we might see multiple Cosmic Cubes.
We might see a Red Skull with a Cosmic Cube. Because
Yeah.
the Red Skull is always searching for Cosmic Cube. That's a Russian Red Skull. Why is he Russian? Well, we saw a green one at... but the other thing, too, is the Infinity Gems are, like, round inside of the particle effect, and Cosmic Cubes square, or cubish. So.
Anyways, what I was going with that, it was that originally, had it only been Cap, I would have said that, well, maybe the chases are just other different characters with all equipped with Infinity Gauntlets, and then we would get a whole bunch of different Infinity Gauntlets.
Yeah, so ultimately, I think there's going to be probably, like, 2 gauntlets, 2 cubes.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's going to be teams that can make use of them, and I think the Cosmic Cube is probably the most consistently effective and less threatening to the player using it. Ultimately, though, one character who can really make effective use of the Infinity Gauntlet, strangely enough, is the Black Panther with the Infinity Gauntlet. Because what you do is you say, I'm going to pick a click. Doesn't matter what click. And then you take a damage from the gauntlet. Well, it doesn't matter how that you took that damage. You're still going back to the click you started on.
Right.
Because of his effect. So,
Yes.
Black Panther with Infinity Gauntlet. Be ready for that, for sure. Okay. And then that Space Gem, though, it's going to be what the exospecs are to the current meta. Now anyone is a carrying piece. It's pretty cool and effective. I'm not going to lie. Have you seen what the Space Gem does?
No.
It gives Passenger 2.
Cool.
Amongst some other effects. We shared it on our... I'm so glad you pay attention to what I share.
Work has consumed me this week.
Yeah, I got you. But the Space Gem, modify speed +1, gives phasing as well as carry 2. When this character hits, if the attack roll was a 10 or higher, after resolutions, you may place a hit character up to 8 squares away from where their current space.
That's awesome.
Doesn't say line of fight. Doesn't say line of fire.
Yep.
So, hello, Bifrost. And it's 10 points. So, I can see the Infinity Gem being pretty effective things. And there's some characters that start with them. We saw today in Titania and Iron Man, which we'll go over on the Metal Lab on Monday.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the Space Gem's going to be a lot of fun, for sure. Plus 10 points on, like, a character to carry 2.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
I know a lot of the talk about a lot of the objects and stuff that are coming out is that they're all, like, light objects.
Yep.
And that's...
And indestructible.
Yes.
I think.
Remind me what indestructible is.
You can't just... remember that effect of, I'm going to...
be KO'd when you use it in an object attack. Okay. So you can't blow it up just by targeting it. You have to pick it up and attack somebody with it.
Yeah. So that Cyclops trick that everybody's like, I'm going to blow your object up. Like, none of the items
But the Puffins can still walk away with it.
Yeah, Puffins is still going to definitely
people.
walk away with it.
They're definitely going to hit people over the heads with
Good
it.
Puffin, yo!
The Puffins are a bit of a threat to this. And I do understand where people were saying that, and the Cosmic Cube is the same way, is that, oh, here's this light object that we're paying 30 points for, and a Puffin's going to hit me with it.
So ultimately, the idea is if you're playing with a map bonus, you're playing a theme team. If you're playing with a character with a special object, play a theme team.
Yes. Beware the Puffin.
Beware the Puffin. Get puffined. I've been puffined. It's annoying. Especially when you've got it in your head that your strategy completely relies on it. Especially when it doesn't. Like, when I lost at PG, I was like, what did I do to myself? I didn't need, in that matchup, I did not need... Bane's item. I don't know why I let that happen. I mean, I was already behind when he tanked me. That was the thing that caused the problem. Getting tanked. Yeah, aside from that, that's it. That's all we got for questions today. Unless there's anything in the chat, I should probably check that. Capital letter question. Ricky L does. You know what? We're gonna go in depth about the characters that we've seen previewed so far This is Amber's fault, this entire line of questioning, because Amber wanted to talk about the Hulk.
He's got a squid on his head, man.
I sent Amber just the image of this Hulk, and Amber was like, why is there a squid on his head? And I didn't picture Amber's face, so I pictured Siri's face like, why is there a squid on his head?
He was probably like, why is there a squid on his head?
There's a squid on his head. There's a squid there. Which is actually
Jason was not prepared for this.
I was prepared for this. I was prepared for the Hulk with the squid on his head. I was ready.
You were not prepared for me reacting.
I was not prepared for... I had no idea what your... In fact, I only found out about your reaction just now. Because you did not talk to me about it after the fact. Because I think they released this on the Tuesday. And I came home and worked out.
Yeah.
So... And then so you went to bed early Tuesday, I think.
Work's been crazy this week.
You worked the overtime last Saturday.
Yeah.
This weekend's going to be a nice trip for you, isn't it?
I'm so excited for this. I'm so happy it's Friday.
On that note,
the slowly, like, you only see me once every 2 weeks, maybe once a month, and you're like slowly seeing me descend into insanity right now.
On that note, guys, it's been fantastic, Married Lab. Amber, anything you actually want to say before we go?
No.
All right, cool. On that note, then, check us out at patreon.com/marriedwithclicks to help support us a little bit of your own accord. Patron tokens, I swear, they're going to come out at some point.
Stamps.
Amber needs to get stamps. We need the equivalent of stamps.com in Canada.
Yes.
That's what we need. That aside, we'll see you guys on Monday for a very long Metal Lab full of previews.
As long as work isn't as crazy as it was this week, I will have some edited content for people as well.
And Amber will remind me at some point this weekend to put that edited content on our hard drive.
Yep. That's the thing.
That's the thing.
It's going to happen.
But, as well, this Sunday evening...
Oh gosh, yes.
It's the first Sunday of the month. It's our patron hangout. So check us again, patreon.com/marriedwithclicks. If you want to join in on the patron hangout with us on Sunday evening at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's all we have for today. Everybody, have yourselves a wonderful weekend. We're finally going to go see Endgame.